With us as always. A lot that I want to break down in this because this is similar to some of the other crimes that we lately have been covering. So for instance, Ahmaud Arbery, there's a video. We have a video in the George Floyd case. Yet here again, we have a video that shows part of what happened. So let's start there at the beginning of the story. How does that help or hurt the defense when there is a video showing what happened?
Well, it only depends if there is some type of crossfire that would justify Kyle shooting back. If you don't have any evidence in the video that he is being shot at or third parties are being shot at, who he is trying to defend, then his knight in shining armor defense could fail. I mean, here you have a young man with this type of firepower crossing state lines to protect property where there does not appear to be any imminent threat of harm to any individual, let alone to himself. So unless that video bears that out, I think this kid's in jeopardy.
And this is a teenager. I'm glad you said young man, because something I want us to all keep in mind, and he looks youthful to me, but he is a teenager, rather. All right, so there's an investigation. They get the video. They do their investigation. He's charged. Let's move forward now to the motions hearing that happened today. So let's start with just the premise of, if you've just watched your first trial, what is the purpose of a motions hearing, and why do we have those hearings before we get to a trial?
One of the functions of any judge, as you would know, Judge Ashley, is to decide certain issues outside the presence of the jury in determining admissibility of evidence at the trial. Those are not matters that should be in the earshot of the jury, because if matters are excluded and the jury overhears it all, they cannot unring that bell. So there are certain pieces of evidence that the defense is seeking to exclude, and obviously pieces of evidence that the prosecution is seeking to admit. And the judge sits as the, trier of fact, if you will, on the admissibility of this evidence. And obviously there needs to be a showing of relevance, and certainly whether or not the probative value is not outweighed by any substantial prejudicial effect it could have on this kid.
Oh, that's such a great point, because I know one of the things that was discussed today during the motions hearing is any criminal history or any evidence about the defendant himself and whether or not it should be allowed in. And of course, as a judge, I used to have to decide, is the probative value outweighed by the prejudicial value? Because if it is, then it's not coming in. The other types of decisions in motion hearings, as you know, is things like the venue, where the trial is going to be held. If they have any objections to any of the logistics during COVID that they might have to arrange to handle all those logistics, it's no small task. And I think a lot of people don't think about the details that must go into not only a big trial like this, but public safety, safety for the defendant, all of those different issues.
Right. Jury viewings are also a big issue. Sometimes the prosecution or even the defense moves the court for an order to bring the jury out to the scene so they can get a good bird's eye view, spatially, distance-wise, what this offender kind of endured or went through and what his state of mind could have been under the circumstances. If he was perhaps in a tight corner somewhere where he hears crossfire and all he can do is turn around like he's wearing a night scope or a sniper's scope and can't see who's coming after him and needs to fire, the jury needs to also perceive those dimensions as well, and you need a court order for that, and it's expensive. You need special transportation. You have to have bailiffs there from the court services division and bring them all out. So it's a balancing effect as well.
There is a lot of information that has to be digested as a result of motions hearings. And again, those are based on motions that have either been filed by the prosecution or the defense. All right, now I'd like to turn our attention to some of what we heard today during the motions hearing, specifically some of what the judge had to say. So I want to listen to a little bit of his commentary on the youth.
There's kids